Let's talk about change. So I get phone calls almost every single week from clients asking me how can they reduce the amount of change in their lives? How can they stabilize the change? How can they stop the change from happening? And the funny thing about this is that it's actually not about stopping change. It's about learning how to really partner with it and navigate through it. So let's first of all get something straight. The fact that you or your organization or your team is going through so much change right now is actually a really, really great thing. Because if you're not going through change, that means you're kind of stuck or you're stagnant or you're just not innovating or, I don't know, maybe you're a little bit bored. So, you know, it could be cool to have no change for a day and to kind of enjoy the peace of that. But let's look at when you're actually going through change, what's the way to navigate it versus resist it? So think about it this way. Resistance energetically is just like energetic glue. So if you've got change coming in your life and you're resisting it, what you're basically doing is you're putting up a bunch of energetic glue that blocks you over here and cuts you off from any new creative ideas or any new ways of innovating. So we don't want that. Instead, we want to look at this change and we want to go, okay, great, how do we partner with it? So here's the 5 things you want to do when it comes to navigating change. And you can do this with yourself, you can do this with your team, you can do this with your organization, you can do this with your business partner, your spouse, your kids, whoever. But let's look at these 5 things. First, I just want you to notice your relationship with change. Is it scary? Is it ambiguous? Is it something to be avoided? Is it something that actually is kind of exciting and creates a lot of curiosity in you? Does change actually represent that you're becoming a bigger person or a bigger company or a bigger team or that you're doing even cooler things in the world? Just notice what your relationship is. The second thing to do is to notice what assumptions you're making about the change. To really notice what's happening for real right now in this moment, and to notice what you're making up about what might happen. So this is a place where I see people get into a lot of trouble with change. They start to fast forward into the future where they have no control over what's going to happen, and they let that energy cloud their ability to make new decisions from this place, which is no good. Like no good comes out of that. So we want to just look at what's real, what are you making up, and what do you want to be real right now in this present moment. At a minimum, if you're going to make assumptions about the change, at least make assumptions with yourself and your team that will serve you. So number 3 is to stay really present to the change that's happening right now, to stay really present to this moment. Now, this doesn't mean that you can't have strategy for the future. It doesn't mean you can't fast forward and think about what is the best way to navigate this change. Do that, absolutely. But the more present you are in this moment and the less encumbered by fear and making up stories, the more access you're going to have to intuition and wisdom about what that change needs to look like. So stay present and strategize. Number 4, this is happening all the time, I hope, but even more important when you're amidst change, especially if it's a painful change. You want to take amazing care of yourself. Amazing care of yourself. So extra attention to what you're eating, what you're putting in your body, to how your body moves, to taking naps, to giving yourself extra decompression time. If you're going through change with your team, give yourself the gift of a little bit of extra space to talk about, you know, the fact that maybe the change is difficult. You know, so this is not about avoiding it or pretending like it's not happening, but it is about partnering with it and really looking at how you take care of yourself so you're the best instrument of change possible to navigate through that. So now that you're taking really good care of yourself and you're navigating through this change, the 5th thing to do is to really look at what are your intentions and what are your desired outcomes for this change. So I see people a lot of times, they're in the midst of change and they let it kind of take over them. So instead of doing that, what we want to do is I want you to think about what you want your outcomes to be. The more clear and intentional you can be about what you want this change to result in, the easier it's going to be for you to create those kind of outcomes as you move forward. So great place to look here is to look at the 5 steps to creating intentional impact. You can look at those videos, you can look at the module on intentional impact, but the bottom line here is the clearer you are about what you want to have happen as a result of this change, even if you don't have total control, the clearer you are about your desired outcomes, the more likely you're going to be able to create them. So really quick recap. First, simply notice your relationship with change. You've got one. What is it? Second one, notice what you're making up about the change. Is it reality? Is it assumption? Like, what are you making up? The third step is to be really present right now to what's happening. The 4th step is to take amazing care of yourself. And the 5th step is to be super, super clear on your intended outcomes. That's it. Go forth, change, love yourself up every step of the way, and go do some really great work in the world. soon.